And he wrote yesterday at Bleacher Report, at what point should the Sixers just cut bait with Fultz and take whatever they can get? The headline of his articles, Eitan, says the Sixers have to dump Markelle Fultz, but good luck finding a trade partner.
I like how he thinks.
So you're in the camp, Eitan, just for refreshing the memories of people out there. You believe the Sixers have no ties to this guy. They would take anything.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm saying that they're not going to dive into this right away and say, hey, we'll take the first offer on the table. Like normal, savvy general managers, you'll do your due diligence.
But you think they should?
I think he's
going to be... if they got offered anything, they should get rid of him?
Well, I think that if something like a second-round pick in Kyle Korver is on the table, that's probably the most that I think. If you want to go back and forth and play semantics and bleed this thing out for another 2 months and maybe work in an extra future consideration type of pick, then go for it. But I don't think that you move the needle in the next 2 months from second-round pick Kyle Korver to mid-round, first-round pick and a future second round with a player. Like that's not going to go from night and day. I think you pretty much know the area of what you're going to get back for Markelle Fultz.
All right, let's go to the Boardwalk Honda hotline here. BleacherReport.com. Yaron Weitzman has a great piece on the future of Fultz, and he thinks the Sixers need to dump him and take whatever they can get. Yaron, thanks for joining us. How are you, man?
I'm good. I guess dump, but you got to love on the headlines. But I guess that is kind of what I was saying. But dump feels a little strong. But, I won't take out my headline writers on you.
The headline writer threw you under the bus. All right, Sixers have to dump Markelle. But you do agree that it's time to move on from him?
Yeah, to me, I think the thing that some people don't realize is it's that number, the salary number on that option for him. So the way it works is next year he gets paid $9 million. And come October, you have to decide, because he's the number one overall pick, right? So it's not like a minimum deal we're talking about. And come October, you have to decide whether to pick up his $12 million option for the following season. So that, to me, kind of it gets the clock running here a little quicker than maybe people would hope. So I don't see how you could pick up that $12 million option for the following year, which, the Sixers, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think they can try to have like $20 million in cap room, even if they re-sign Jimmy. But the money's going to be tight, and they want to win now, right? So if you're doing that, giving Markelle Fultz $9 million this next year and $12 million the year after that is just going to be really tough. So if you turn down that option, and he becomes an unrestricted free agent after that, that means next year you'd be carrying a guy who's a free agent, and why would another team want to trade for him? Like, what are you going to get? What's your value? So to me, the clock is really this year's trade deadline. That's kind of where I come at this. And do you think that before then he's going to turn things around? And I just don't see it. I don't see it's going to happen in Philly. I mean, we saw even before he kind of disappeared or he said he wasn't going to show up, Brett Brown had already gone back to TJ McConnell as his second point guard, right? So it's just, I don't know where the value is going to go up. So I kind of agree with what you guys were saying before, I guess what one of you were saying, in that to me, it's about winning championships. I would try to use him and get whatever you can to help you win a championship now.
What do you think whatever you can will ultimately be defined as?
That's the $1 million question. Right?
Yeah, but you real quick, I'm sorry, I wanted to give you a little more context in my question. You heard what I was saying coming into it, which is I personally don't feel that you're going to go from the arena of second-round pick Kyle Korver all of a sudden in the next 2 months to 15th pick overall in the first round and, a future second-round pick for Fultz. It pretty much seems like we're kind of in that area that won't move.
Yeah, I would agree. There's, people around the league, that kind of seems to be this feeling. Teams that are thrown out, not that anyone's connecting them, just, guessing, people, the teams you guys would guess, right? Phoenix and Trevor Ariza is a name that people say, oh, that seems like it would make sense because small market team that maybe want to take a flyer on Fultz, Orlando, Cleveland. So, I guess the move is the way I would come at it is if I can get an able-bodied player, so a Korver or an Ariza, a Terrence Ross type, someone like that who can help the Sixers bolster their depth a little bit, which is a huge problem for them right now. I would take that. I know Fultz is the number one overall pick, but to me, I look at it as a sunk cost. And just what are you going to go forward? What can you do now? What's going to happen going forward? And to be honest, the East is open, and why not go for it? I know that's kind of the anti-pro thinking that a lot of people don't like.
No, we're good. We're good with it.
There you go. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Okay, now, in your piece, Yaron Weitzman, Bleacher Report, in your piece, you have an Eastern Conference scout. He can get that 15-foot jump anytime, and some of his moves in the paint or on the break are the kinds of things most guys just can't do. We debated this yesterday. Like, that's why I think the Sixers aren't willing to just give up like a bag of balls for him, and yet other teams are willing to take a shot on him because of the promise of what he potentially could be. Even if he never gets to that point, somebody out there will think that he potentially can get back to what brought him to be consensusly for most the number one pick.
I mean, if you're the Sixers, you have to hope so, right? But I mean, listen, like their numbers, you can find numbers when he was on the floor without Simmons, with Embiid and all shooters around him. They were solid sometimes, right? But it's the eye test is the issue, and the issue is also, again, searching for the injury. That time I spoke to the scout, actually, that wasn't the scout. That came before his whole, I don't know what you want to call it, the whole new free throw routine and the hitch and all that stuff.
Right.
I mean, that's what it's going to come down to, right? It's going to come down to is he. I guess I'm not saying I come from the camp. I think a lot of people do. I find it hard to believe that there's a big shoulder wrist injury that is preventing him from being the shooter he once was. I just don't see it. You see him in warm-ups, you see him stuff. I could be wrong. Maybe we're all wrong. Maybe the specialist.
No. The only other camp that would disagree with you, it seems like, is Markelle Fultz's camp. You're in the rest of America's camp.
Exactly. No, it really does. And I think part of the issue is he's getting some bad advice from people around him. I don't know the full details there, but truth to power is the phrase I like to use. And someone's got to say, Markelle, let's talk about what's actually going on here. Let's figure it out. Doesn't mean anything wrong with you. It's just this stuff that happens, right? And we have to figure out what's actually going on, and we got to fix it. And until where I come from personally is until that happens, I just find it hard to believe that he's ever going to fulfill stuff. It doesn't mean he can't. He's still really, really young. But I do think it has to happen somewhere else.
You mentioned the line, and it's a tough one. And I don't know, do we have experiences like this in the NBA or maybe even professional sports where you had a young player who was just getting such bad advice from their camp, from the people? And, I mean, this is not teammates. This is not the Sixers organization that's giving Fultz bad advice. It's clearly the people around him, his inner circle, in which a veteran or somebody has come in and stepped in and said, listen, you need to break away from these people. Because I get it. Like, it shouldn't be on Joel Embiid, but at the same time, maybe that's the type of person or the only type of person that Markelle Fultz would even listen to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is it going to be a team? I don't think it's going to be a Sixer or a teammate. I mean, it's the kind of thing. You have stories before. You have other stories of people getting new agents and things like that. I'm not saying you should do that. I guess what all of us don't know, we don't really know where the full advice is coming from, right? Who's leading the charge? So we know his agent is the one who called the Sixers. We kind of saw Elton Brand's reaction to that in terms of when he gave the press conference after he was told that Fultz wouldn't be coming back. Maybe it is, maybe no, maybe Fultz is, he's saying one thing in media and saying another thing behind closed doors. That's the part that's been weird to me. Is like the night before the agent announces he's not coming back. Fultz talks to the media and says he's fine. Not even says he's fine. He doesn't bring up any issues about the shoulder wrist. Doesn't say he has any issues with not playing. So the whole thing, I know I'm rambling. The whole thing's just so weird, right? It's like there's bizarre. So many more questions than answers.
It's totally bizarre. And one of the things is, look, one of my contentions was the guy that we saw in college at Washington. Forget Washington. The guy that was in Summer League. He shot the ball. He was similar to the player in college. So people say, well, I don't care. His competition in college wasn't very good. That's fine. But he has not displayed the same skill set at this level that he displayed there, which would say something's not right. Whatever is not right, that is what we can't find out. But we really haven't seen the guy that the scouts were gushing over, have we?
No, I mean, no, but that's the funny part. In Summer League, we did, right? Like, we did.
Yes.
And then since then,
he was impressive in the Summer League. I mean, he was impressive in the Summer League. He pulled up from three from way out multiple times. I mean, I talked yesterday, Yaron, with Eitan. This guy, multiple times in a college game, shot 10 three-pointers in a game. It's not like he did it once. He did it multiple times.
And I said so did Jimmer Fredette.
He had the green light to shoot whenever he wanted to. So it's just so bizarre that he refuses to shoot now.
Yeah, he's a new player, and that's like, so again, you see the athleticism and the explosions to the hoop and things like that, where you see why those are the raw skills. But there's watching him play and watching clips of him from college and going back to those summer league videos, which I've looked at before, just because it's crazy, it's jarring to see the difference. And again, summer league, not even just college, summer league. It's jarring. It's clearly there's something different there, and it's hard to imagine.
So because of that, Yaron, because of that. Because there is such a drastic difference in the tape, is it worth either A, holding on to him, or B, if you're another team, taking a shot on him based on the start? This isn't like Anthony Bennett, who just couldn't play. His skill set was the same. He just wasn't very good. This guy's skill set is completely not the same.
Yeah, it's worse than Bennett's right now.
No, I understand. That's a good point. I understand what you're saying. Where if for another team, yeah, because I hear what you're saying. What you're kind of saying is there's this tangible. It might not be so tangible, but there's this thing we notice that if we fix this, we can get the number one pick. That's essentially what it is. That this one thing that needs to be fixed, we can get the number one pick. It's just kind of flip the switch. Whether that switch could be flipped is kind of the big question. Yeah. So if you're another team, 100% it's worth it. Especially I mentioned Cleveland, Toronto, not Toronto, excuse me. Orlando, Phoenix, Miami, maybe a team who's kind of stuck in that purgatory area where you can't get at. So I was taking a flyer, yeah. For Philly, the problem is, when you think of the money, right? You think of how that's going to affect your cap. You think about where you are now, where you're trying to go. I just don't see I don't see any way where that switch can be flipped while he's with you over the next couple of years. And if you come to that conclusion, that's my conclusion. I'm sure maybe Elton Brand has a different one.
Is the money a problem? Is the money a problem for trading him?
But how could it be? It's a problem here, but why would it be a problem for the teams that he mentioned?
Yeah, that's right. It's a problem here if you're trying to, you have your 3 stars already. You're kind of capped out, right? It's like not worth it. If you're another team, I don't know what. If you're, I don't have the cap number in front of me. But
I do.
If you're Orlando, but if you're Orlando, why?
Plenty of room in Orlando. Plenty of room.
Yeah, why do you care about putting a $12 million option for him for 1 year? If it doesn't work, fine. If it does, then you keep, you resign. That's fine. So that other team, it's the Sixers timeline, which is different, and Fultz just doesn't fit.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, and this is where I think Mike and I disagree, and it's a micro level of disagreement, but is the intent of a team. Like, it's one thing to say, Markelle Fultz is available, let's give up a back-end second-round pick and a guy like Kyle Korver, versus we still believe in Markelle Fultz, that we're willing to go Dallas Cowboys first-round pick for Amari Cooper level of intent to how much we really care about this kid. Meaning, if only available for Markelle Fultz's return was a high ask by the Sixers, he doesn't get traded, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say intent doesn't really matter as much as the market does, right? So like, what do you think? Like, I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm guessing the first call. I'm guessing the Sixers have already gotten calls saying, "Hey, you want our second round pick for Markelle?" Right?
Yeah.
Straight up. Like that's where the market would start, right? So like, if that's what the market is that going to climb all the way up to whatever 15th
exactly
pick?
right.
I don't.
Well, and that's where the balance where we don't know what the Sixers think. If somebody said we'll give you a second round pick, because we're intrigued, we'll take the flyer. Here's a second round pick. Do the Sixers value the second round pick, or waiting to find out if he can get through this? That is, I guess, the $1 million question.
I think the second round pick. I think it's more about how does the second round pick help them reach their goal? I don't think it does. A second round pick and a legitimate rotation player could be your version of, it's going to sound funny, but Ilyasova and, Dallin Elliott, those kind of guys we need, where it sounds funny. But, the Sixers, they're running with a 7-8-man rotation right now, and Joel Embiid's playing 35 minutes a game. So, a second round pick and a Terrence Ross, then it might be like, okay, that's if we look at our win curve, that's bumping us up 2-3 wins, helping the minutes here, and that gets us to where we think we need to be. So that's a different kind of discussion in my view.
Yeah, and I think we need to not combine the notion that the Sixers not trading him in the next month is also the Sixers are retaining hope with this kid long term. It's most likely just waiting to see what you can get over the next 2 months. Like, I'd be shocked if wouldn't you? If Markelle Fultz is on this team come to playoffs?
I'd be surprised, kind of things I'm saying. But yeah, what I agree with the first part you're saying is I think we've reached the point now where it's a market value game as opposed to a sentimentality or, let's built. Let's assume built for the future type thing. I think that's the difference here. That's how I would phrase it. So it's about your market value. So yeah, I guess if he's still on the team, maybe it's 'cause you couldn't. If you're only getting second round pick offers, and that's just not. What's the point for that? That maybe. Like, what's the equation, right? What's better? What helps you more, a second-round pick or the chance that Fultz figures something out walking away from the team for 3 months and can win you a couple games in the playoffs?
Right.
Then you're better off with that.
Well, it almost seems like I don't know what your opinion is on this, but that there's a disconnect between him and his team, that he's happy with just being a part of the team, and his team saying, no, you're not. I mean, he's like, hey, I'll sit here in street clothes. I'm having a great all the time. I don't even have to play. I don't get criticized. I get to sit on the bench of an NBA. Like, he just seems like he's that immature that it's cool for him to be on the bench and not have to do anything almost.
I wish I knew. It's so funny. He really hasn't talked about it at all, right? That's the thing. Like, from the beginning, he hasn't even talked about the shoulder. He's refused the injury. It's really strange.
Except for November 6th, I think it was, when he said he was all right.
Said it was fine.
It just was some wear and tear, bumps and bruises.
You know the NBA, and not just because you watch it, but because you cover it, and you know people around the league, and you know people that are, I'm sure, in the Sixers building as well. And we would never ask you to name names, but I would be shocked if you had one person in your go-to group of sources that said, you know what, Fultz is really hurt.
I guess I'll phrase it like that. I haven't. It's been hard to find people outside.
Fair enough.
I won't even say in the Sixers camp. I'll say in the Sixers. I'll say it's hard to find people outside of Fultz's camp who believe that, not that he's not really hurt, that the root of all of this is current. The root of all this currently is some kind of major issue in his shoulder.
Fair enough. And I by no means meant to put words in your mouth, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But
that's fine.
I think it's just the dire situation of where we are.
Yaron Weitzman from Bleacher Report covers the NBA. You had a lot of Sixers and Knicks games. They'll play tonight. Will you be in Philly tonight?
I will. I'm currently driving through Philly, looking to my hotel right now. So, yeah.
All right, man. And if you're up there Friday, I'll be there Friday and Sunday. Maybe I'll stop by, and if you're up there one of those days, and thank you for coming on, man.
Sounds good. Anytime.